Welcome back to another episode of The Hook by Adventures in Americana. I'm Christine Davis, and today I'm joined by our esteemed special guest, 16-year-old Minnesotan phenom, Obadiah Gamble. Obadiah has just released his first full-length album, Notice. It's an incredible journey filled with gorgeous textures, poetic lyrics, and styles ranging from pop to Americana to bossa nova. Welcome, Obadiah. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Congratulations on the release of your first album. I'm sure you get this a lot, but it's hard for me to believe someone as young as you has not only this much talent, but the ability to write and record something this polished and comprehensive. When did you start writing music?
I mean, ever since I could talk, basically. It's been ever since I was very young. I used GarageBand and like all the little apps on my iPad that I could to make like beats and make songs from scratch. And that kind of started the spark of writing full songs and songwriting and kind of trying new genres. Of course, that came much, much later, like a couple years ago. And that's kind of how I started. The process of this album was just, I just started writing songs.
So you released a few singles in 2024. Were you already thinking in terms of an album at that point, or did the idea of Notice come later as you noticed a thread connecting your new songs? And how did that realization shape the way you finished and produced the record?
I was, at that point, I was just making songs. Like, I was kind of doing it for the fun of it. And I mean, I was also young, like young as in like 2 years ago, but I was kind of not really thinking of it as like working towards a bigger project. However, I had enough songs. I had about like 20 songs, and a lot of them were just like a verse and a chorus and very rough, very like stripped down, you know? And after I released a couple of those singles, I was like, okay, I could choose some of these and actually work on them. So I kind of chose a couple. But of course, through the process, I got rid of some, added new ones. I mean, one of my songs, Do We Know, came like 5 months ago. So like after I thought I already had everything, I was like, oh, but this is really cool, and I just made this, so I'm gonna add this too. So, the album kind of came when I had songs, and I was like, let me like I rewrite these if I need to, add new ideas, and find a overarching topic, which is the theme, which is Notice, that I can kind of connect all these songs to.
The album covers a spectrum of themes lyrically and musically. Is there one track that stands out for you as the guiding concept for the whole album?
It's definitely the title track, Notice. I wrote that song, I think it had to be like almost exactly last year. And I wrote it because there's a lot of political division. Like, people are so divided. And I kind of wanted to write a song about, like, what do we have to do to notice each other and get past the barrier of I'm right and you're wrong? And yeah, I think I wrote that from my personal experience with people who just disagree and kind of don't see the other side. So I feel like that idea of noticing each other kind of brought that song into light and kind of helped the concept of the rest of the album.
I love the song Eyes for You, which has a classic bossa nova arrangement. And I have to say that when I was your age, I didn't even know the term bossa nova. Did you have do you have a musical family, and have you been exposed to music growing up, or how did that take place?
Yeah, I mean, very young, we started learning piano. Like, we had a teacher that would come for all three of me and my siblings. And we kind of started with that. Musicals, we were always listening to musicals and also different types of music. Um, I had this one guitar teacher, and his name is Tommy, and he introduced me to bossa nova and like Brazilian music, and that kind of just set me off because I am such a fan of that style, and I kind of wanted to make a little ode to that in my album with Eyes for You, because I don't know, bossa nova and Brazilian music is very cool, and I was glad to have put that in my album.
And you already mentioned this, but another standout track for me, particularly in the wake of recent events happening in Minnesota and across the US, is Do We Know? In it, you repeat the question, do we know what we're doing? It doesn't reference anyone or anything in particular. And I'm wondering, what was the intention for you behind that song?
I think, I mean, I didn't want to be preachy, like people don't like listening to music that they think people are trying to preach something to them. I wanted this one phrase to kind of resonate with everybody, because people could say this about whatever they believe in. Of course, I have my things I believe in, so I'm going to like say, do we know what we're doing in this sense? But I feel like, this can be for everybody to listen to and take, and kind of as an anthem almost. Of course, like, there's a lot I disagree with what's happening right now. And so I think, like, you can totally ask the question, do we know what we're doing for what's happening in our streets and what's happening in our government, And I think this could go for anything that's happening, because we always have to hold each other accountable and kind of stop and ask the question, because, if we don't and leave things unresolved, you know, it's just a cycle, and more conflict and more hurt and more division.
You just had your album release show. How did it feel to perform these songs live?
It was incredible. It was the best crowd. We completely packed the place. It was very fun. I love all these songs, and I really wanted to, you know, honor them, but also do some new stuff. And it was just incredible. I had the greatest band. Everybody was incredible, and I love playing these songs. And some people were already singing along in the crowd, and that just warmed my heart so much. So that was incredible. But I loved playing all those songs. I specifically wrote some of these. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be great live, and that was quite true. It was a very fun experience.
What else do you want people to know about Notice?
And I feel like, I mean, the concept of crossing, like, beliefs and barriers of even religion too. Like, I feel like people can learn so much from, like, exploring other ideas. And I don't know, yeah, I just love that idea of noticing each other. A lot of these songs on my album kind of talk about relationship problems as well. And I feel like it's also important, not just in political division, but just relationships. Um, I think it's very important to hear each other and kind of not distance if you, like, don't agree or there's a fight or something. And a lot of these songs are from conversations I've had with my friends about their problems. I personally haven't had any yet, but it's definitely kind of interesting to take what I've heard from other people, kind of make songs that can resonate with people, but also kind of say, like, relationships are hard, but we kind of need to get over that and work to better ourselves for the other person as well. And I think a lot of these songs kind of talk about that. I mean, some are about, like, love at first sight, like Eyes for You and Fire. Um, I would say Late Night Thoughts is like, and Felt It are like, kind of, there's a rift in relationship, and maybe they're not together right now and they kind of want to come back, but it's kind of hard because they don't agree on everything. And then Notice can also be about relationships too. It's not just about, like, the political climate and everything. Like, it can also be about noticing other people that, like, have a problem. And, like, I think it's important to, like, speak and make your opinions clear, but also kind of, yeah, there's a fine line. But yeah, I think a lot of these songs speak to relationships and speak to problems in our culture. And but yeah, it's based on all my friends having conversations with me, and me learning more about was happening in politics and all that. So yeah, there's a lot of things that come into just one word. It's just notice, but it was very cool to figure this out during the process of writing as things connected and kind of brought this term to light for me.
Mhm. Check out Obadiah Gamble's fantastic debut album, Notice, now, wherever you get your music. It is a wonderful album. I can't wait for you to enjoy it. I'm Christine Davis for The Hook by Adventures in Americana. Obadiah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.